All right, I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order, please. Ms. Lola, can you do roll call?
Yes. Member Bonsley?
Here.
Member Ciociola?
Here.
Member Ford?
Here.
Member Lamb?
Here.
Member Green?
Here.
Member Quilty?
Here.
And President Donnie?
Here.
Thank you.
In closed session tonight, we'll be going over expulsions, suspended contracts, and readmission cases, personal listings, and conference with legal negotiators, as well as going over a conference with our legal negotiator as well. Are there any comments on closed session agenda items?
No, there are not.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and recess to closed session.
Most fun, and they always have great energy. Next Tuesday is our girls soccer senior night, where we'll recognize all of our athletes and the hard work and dedication they put in their senior year. Next Friday, on the 24th, ASB will be hosting a club refresh day for clubs to table and get their information out to students, and hopefully connect with any interested students. The end of January also marks our winter HOGO. Our theme this year is Disney. We've planned a lot of fun spirit days and lunchtime activities for students to engage in. January 31st, that Friday, will be our HOGO rally. We'll have games for students and staff, as well as our HOGO game that evening. The dance will be held on Saturday, February 1st, starting at 8 p.m., and the theme is Once Upon a Time. So we'll have like different sections of our campus decorated with like different princess and castle themes. It'll be really cute. With the second semester starting, winter sports going strong, and our winter HOGO approaching, we've all been very busy but having a lot of fun. This is all I have for updates, and I hope to see you all on Thursday's game against YC, where varsity starts at 7:30. Thank you so much and have a great night. Thank you.
Good evening, board and audience. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carmen, and I'm a student at YCUSD High School. To start off January, we had our first Senate meeting, and we just talked about our financial report and our class points, which for our financial report, freshmen have $12, sophomore have $1,429, juniors have $1,473, and seniors have $6,536. And for our class points, freshmen have 577, sophomore have 1,408, juniors have 2,633, and seniors have 2,608. The class points are, you win class points by winning school activities, and the winning class gets free Kona Ice at the end of the year. So a lot of people like to participate. And then we also had our first class meetings discussing how our classes are going to fundraise and how the juniors are going to make more money to have fun during the senior year. Some things that are coming up are juniors are having their Yule Ball on January 25th from 8 to 11. It's a Harry Potter themed dance, and they're going to be like activities like games at the dance. And then our Dance Spirit Week, well, Monday we don't have any school. Tuesday is Death Eater Day, where we wear all black. Wednesday is Weasley Wednesday, it's Twin Day. Thursday is Dobby Day, Crazy Sock Day. And Friday is the Harry Potter houses, and then each class has a different house. And with the dance coming, our winter court nominees had started yesterday, and our interviews start tomorrow. And they're going to be nominated to see who wins the winter court. Another thing we have coming this week is our senior panoramic photo this Friday at the football stadium, where there's going to be an aerial view class photo for this graduating. And then tomorrow is our first prom committee meeting, and we're going to discuss positions and themes. Some of the ideas that we discussed from our Senate meeting were Masquerade, Wicked, Disney, and Hawaiian. And a lot of people actually like Masquerade and Wicked. So we're going to talk to prom committee tomorrow and see what we want our theme to be. And then last week we had our first Friday activity where you could win class points, and it was musical chairs, and the juniors and seniors won. And then we have our winter rally next week before the dance, and our theme is Squid Games because a lot of students watched it. And the students will compete in different games such as red light, green light to win a prize. But that's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Carmen. All right, so moving on, number 10, staff recognition.
I'd like to invite Mr. Pogue to the podium.
Good evening, board and district leaders and students. Great reports from the high school. Lots going on. Good evening, audience. It's wonderful to be here tonight. I get the pleasure to introduce staff to be recognized tonight. And just want to remind us that we know that staff recognition helps us keep our employees and encourages them to keep improving. And all of this has a great impact on our students and our program and helps us fulfill our mission as a district to prepare the foundation for each student to build tomorrow's world. Tonight we have one important and special recognition to do from Tierra Buena School, and Principal Raj Baines will be presenting the award.
Good evening, staff, board, and audience. I would like to introduce you to an exceptional staff member at Tierra Buena School. So Ms. Sarah Willets, come on up. Sarah is an educator who makes a difference in the lives of her students and our school community. Whether it's in the classroom, on our campus, or out in the community, she is somebody who goes above and beyond in any role she has. As a science teacher, Sarah is one of those that nurtures curiosity among her students. Her classroom is engaging, hands-on, and she also helps guide and facilitate her students to make sense of their learning, construct their knowledge around whatever phenomenon they might be studying. But that passion and creativity is not just limited to the classroom. Sarah also serves on our school leadership team. She helps shape the direction of our school and ensures that our team and our students are thriving. Those of you that know middle school teams, you know that they can sometimes be a bit isolating, whether you're the math teacher, the science teacher, ELA, you kind of close your door and go on and do your own thing. Sarah is the glue of our middle school team. I don't know how she does it, but she keeps our team in sync. She listens, she encourages, and she's that silent person in the back that rallies the team and keeps them all on track. She makes sure that students are at the forefront of each and every decision, but also somehow manages to make staff feel that their voice is valued and heard. Each week I see their agendas for their PLC. Sarah is the master behind that. Every decision is based on student needs, whether it's our students who need a challenge and they need to be pushed. She makes sure that they're getting that, or it's our students that need that extra support. Sarah has everybody's eyes on those students. While she may be a science teacher, she also is someone that steps up and takes on other roles. When our data revealed that we needed some support in math, Sarah was the first one to say, I will step up and I will teach that math intervention during our Eagle time. So that's our intervention time. We have 4 days a week. As if that were not enough, she's also our CJSF advisor, which is our California Junior Scholarship Federation. She helps our students learn about community service while also making sure that they're maintaining academic excellence. And we all know that those skills can, when they're learned early, they will transfer later on in life. I want to share just one heartfelt example of how Sarah goes above and beyond and makes sure that students understand the value of the things they're doing. She took on a holiday project with her CJSF students, and her and the students the Friday before break, winter break, they delivered cards and cookies to 60 senior citizens at the Emerald Oaks Assisted Living Facility. So she not only brought joy to those seniors, she also taught our students the importance of compassion and service. So Sarah is definitely a true role model on our campus, and she is an example of how one person can make a lasting impact to a school and a community. So with that, thank you, Sarah Willets, for joining.
I get a picture of the two of you, of course. Great smiles. Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, go ahead and move on to 11, reports and information. A, Williams quarterly report.
This is a quarterly report for the quarter ending in December 2024. Just reporting we've had no complaints filed during this quarter.
Perfect. B, financing, for the solar energy savings project.
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about the solar project, right? Different phases of it and having different professionals come up here. And as I spoke last time, this is now talking about the financing for the solar project. We have invited Jeff Small with Capital Public Finance Group to just do an informational talk and a specific talk about debt in general for a school district, what that means, what it looks like. And then also we have the numbers in regards to our specific project as well. And this is setting up the approvals that we'll need for the next board meeting on January 28th. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Small at Capital Public Finance Group.
Well, thank you very much. It's very nice to be here again for administration and audience. Jeff Small, Capital Public Finance Group. I am registered with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission to be a financial fiduciary to public agencies when they go out to the market to borrow money. And as we're called a municipal advisor, as such, one of our core missions is to do everything that we can to deliver cost-effective financing to our public agency clients. So I know you're very familiar with this project. I think that it's been put together in a great way. Certainly appreciated the NV5 independent analysis of these savings. So this is great. I'm gonna talk to you tonight about how we're packaging this into a financing. Certificates of participation, I think you're familiar with them. The district used them in 2006 to finance various school facilities throughout the district. And recently, your nonprofit corporation, which was part of that financing, I know you had an annual meeting, will be using that same type of a structure for this solar project. But just by way of background, certificates of participation, or OPS, I guess that's the acronym. It's a primary financing tool for non-voter approved debt. So under state law, to have non-voter approved debt, state law requires that it be set up as a lease-back type of a structure. And as such, you have to have a lease asset to lease back. And in this case, in working with staff, we selected an asset. It's owned by the district. It will continue to be owned by the district. It's the Andres Carperos Middle School. It has a value that is about the value of the financing that we're going to be doing. So that's the leased asset. It's not considered debt because payment on that financing is contingent on the use and occupancy of the middle school. So not to worry, but the reason why I'm explaining it is because you're going to be, on the 28th, you'd be getting some documents that are pretty bulky that describe this lease-back structure. So tonight what I'd like to do is just verbally talk to you about what those documents look like and what the deal looks like. So when you get the documents, you're not like, oh my gosh, what are all these documents? Second thing I'd like to say is, under federal law, the interest paid to investors is exempt from federal taxes. Why? Because this is a financing, it's issued by a public agency for a public purpose, so the Internal Revenue Service authorizes a lower cost financing than would otherwise be available in the commercial or residential markets. So the financing structure, we talked a little bit about the fact that it's a lease-back. So just to take a minute and tell you how that works, there will be a site lease. What that site lease will do is it will lease the middle school to the nonprofit corporation, and then under a lease agreement, that middle school is leased back to the district. In exchange for that lease back, the district receives proceeds that it used to finance the project, and in return for those proceeds, it agrees to make semi-annual payments. Now, to the nonprofit. Now, the nonprofit really assigns all of those payments to the trustee. Trustee goes ahead and they credit those payments to the various investors. The nonprofit doesn't really do anything, and maybe you know that from your your prior meetings with the nonprofit. It's simply there to effectuate this lease back relationship. Let's talk about the deal points. So this is, in order to demonstrate that we're getting the lowest cost financing, we're recommending to the board a competitive bid process. It's a public auction. We will facilitate that in our office. We take bids online, from all, Wall Street banks who are interested in purchasing the certificates of participation. We will require them to bid with a fixed interest rate for the term of the loan, 20-year term of the loan. Again, the interest on that loan is exempt from both federal and state taxes, so that results in a lower borrowing cost than what would otherwise be available to private borrowers. We talked a little bit about those payments. Those payments are simply a stream of payments that reimburses the investors for making the investment, and they also get their tax-exempt interest. The loan will be prepayable. In order to bring about the lowest cost financing, we're breaking the financing in two components. There's a Series A component, and I'll give you some numbers in a moment. But that Series A component, it's a 20-year loan. It's prepayable without a penalty at year 10. Series B loan, that will be a 20-year loan, but it is prepayable after the second year. And I'll explain more about that here in a moment. So what you're looking at is a chart that will allow us to talk about the flow of funds. Where is this money going? How is it being distributed? It's broken down into two parts. One, sources of funds, and then the second is a use of funds. So the source of the funding is the amount of the loan, and we call that the par amount of the bonds, okay? So you see there's a Series A component of roughly 0.8 million and 8.8 million for Series B. Total loan amount is $32,575,000. Now that loan amount is it's going to vary. It really depends on how the underwriters decide to bid on those bonds. Let me give you an example. You'll see on that next line, we have something called a reoffering premium. What that means is a Wall Street firm that bids on these bonds or COPs, they can pay a bond premium, but in return for giving the district money up front, in this case, $2.3 million, it will have a higher coupon rate. Now, coupon rate is just the rate that is paid on principal. But much like when you do a financing, you're familiar with the term APR. Okay, so it's an adjusted rate. And all we are looking at is getting the lowest possible financing cost we can. So maybe an underwriter offers us a premium. Maybe they want to buy the bonds at a discount. Of course, if they buy, if they don't give you the $3 million, they have to give you a lower rate. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because what does matter is what our overall borrowing cost is. It makes a difference in terms of how much money we're borrowing. It's like buying down a mortgage, right? But at the end of the day, this is just a marketing feature. And the reason why I'm explaining it is because when I come back, standing here today, I don't know if there will be a premium or a discount, or, if it'll be 32.5 million or, 33 million. I just don't know. But that is why we don't know. Rest assured, it is a competitive process, and we will get some very attractive bids. Now, let's talk about how those funds are used. The project itself is $30,750,000. Now, that project includes a district contingency of $2,250,000. If the district doesn't use that contingency, then it can go and help pay off the outstanding debt. There's a reserve fund. In Series A, we will most certainly buy an insurance policy to secure timely payment of principal and interest. So you see a zero reserve fund there. But with Series B, remember, that's going to be prepayable after 2 years. So we don't necessarily want to pay the cost of insuring this. if we know that the loan is not going to be outstanding that long. Instead, we're going to put up a cash-funded reserve. That cash-funded reserve is money that belongs to the district. And when we're ready to pay down that Series B, that cash reserve will go and help us pay down the Series B bonds. In the meantime, the district will earn interest on that money, and it'll be close to a wash in terms of you're borrowing money for the reserve, but you're also earning interest money on that reserve. So it'll be pretty close. Now there's some cost of issuance, and there's 3 buckets, and it's about a third, a third, a third. We have to buy insurance. That insurance, we purchase it because it gives us a lower interest rate, and we do some math to figure out whether or not it makes sense to actually purchase that insurance. There's paying of the underwriting firm for taking the risk of purchasing the debt and having to resell it to a number of different investors, so they get their commissions. And then there's other costs of issuance. There's legal fees, our fees, rating fees, and et cetera. Finally, there's something called capitalized interest. Now, on this type of a project, you're actually constructing a facility that is going to save you money. But during the time of construction, there's no money to be saved, so we don't want to have to come out of pocket and pay interest on our loan. What we're doing is we're borrowing that interest up front. We're using that to make interest payments until the solar project is complete, plus a little 6 months extra just to make sure that we have a good project and it's delivering those savings. So that money is effectively the district's money, and it's simply allowing us to cash flow our project so we can repay the financing with savings. Okay. We spoke a little bit about this early on. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, there is a tax credit. It's basically a payment that the IRS sends to government agencies who do solar projects. And so the amount of that is about just over 25% of that solar project. So we apply for that, and this is work that we will do on your behalf with district staff, but we will apply for that on your behalf after the project is placed in service. So the project will be placed in service on or about April 1 of 2026. Your fiscal year begins in July 1 of 26. So for your tax return, which government agencies don't really have, but the IRS sort of treats you like a taxpayer for purposes of the credit, after July 1, 2026, we will make the application to the Treasury, and then they will go ahead and they will remit payment to the district. When we get that payment, we are going to use that payment to pay down the Series B debt. And I'll show you that in a minute. I do want to talk to you a little bit more about the sources of repayment. The idea of this solar project is to replace a portion of the district's electricity cost with a debt payment for savings. Okay? Interest rates, they're about 4.5% right now. This is in red, you see the 10-year Treasury rate. In blue, you see a municipal bond yield curve. And the point of this is just to kind of give you an idea of where interest rates are. For our financing, the current rate is about 4.5%. Again, we won't know the actual rate until we actually have our auction and we get those rates in. But right now, I think this is, it seems like it's a pretty healthy market, and we're on target with our interest rates. So this is your estimated savings. You've seen this before. You've got your annual savings on the far left. We have our payment from the IRS from our Inflation Reduction Act, that's close to $7.3 million. We have our loan payment. There's some maintenance costs and energy dashboard payments. You see that. And then we have a column for net annual savings. Now, what you'll see is we'll get that when we get that payment, when we get the money from the IRS, from the Inflation Reduction Act in year 2, that'll go ahead and prepay those. I'm sorry, this is without the prepayment. Excuse me. So on this slide, what you're looking at is if you did not pay down your loan over a 20-year period, this project would save the district $5.6 million. The issue, your advisor that I have, is I don't like to see all those negative numbers, right? So we want to structure this in a manner to not only maximize those savings over the 20 years, but also give you positive cash flow. And we're doing that by this Series A, Series B structure. This is what will happen after we pay down Series B. So this is really the goal. Same exact schedule. You'll see the savings in year 20 goes up. I think that says 9.3 million at the end. But you'll also notice that every year we have savings, except for when we pay down that Series B. Now, when we go to pay down that Series B, we can make sure that it aligns with the actual funds that you get. But I think we need to see how things shake out. But rest assured, this is the most optimal way of having a structure that will yield the most cost savings to the district.
So you took out the IRA, and did I miss why you talked? I did. I'm sorry. Would you say that again?
Yeah, I will. And thank you for coming back to that. So we're going to get. We have two series of bonds, a Series A and a Series B.
Mm-hmm.
The only purpose of Series B is to advance fund the IRA payment. As soon as we get that IRA payment in,
Then we pay.
Series B. That way, we're not paying interest on Series B, and that's the primary reason why your savings is going from, I think, 5.6 million up to 9.3 million.
Now, have you worked out a scenario whereby what our costs are, should the IRA get rolled back or repealed, as it has, like, I think 20 times now since 2022? And with the incoming administration, the ideas are that they are rolling back a lot of that. So
yeah. So So if let's go back to the prior slide. This is with the IRA, but without the payment. If let's say this is a congressional act, I guess Congress could vote to repeal it, right? That's what they would have to do, and I think they'd have to do it pretty soon, because once you embark on the project and you're doing the IRA, I mean,
But you said you can only get it once it's done, right? Which is 2016.
Yes.
I mean, sorry, 2026.
2026 is when we applied for it. But if in fact there was no IRA, right, and that $7.3 million was removed, the project would be negative. So it's very important that IRA, not only that it exists like it does today, but that when it does come in, it's paid down. So there are districts that have started to receive payments on the IRA. Whether or not that part of the IRA is affected by future legislation, we don't know. There have been cases with other types of debt where they haven't been repealed, but there's been delays or sequestrations.
Well, the whole thing hasn't been repealed, but 20 times have been voted to roll it back off the initial. So that's just my question.
And
if they have another scenario whereby
if they roll it back, we will lose that payment, and that would make the cash flow negative.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. So documents. On the 28th, we will bring back a resolution. It'll authorize the financing. It'll authorize the documents that we talked about today, that site lease, that lease agreement, the assignment agreement where we're assigning payments to investors. There's a trust agreement because there's a trustee involved. That trustee essentially stands in the shoes of investors to make sure that the transaction proceeds as it is supposed to. There will be a document called a preliminary official statement. It's a prospectus. That document is given to investors. It will describe the district's finances. It's a very important document. It's important that it's accurate, it's complete, and it's not misleading because it is going to investors. So those are the documents that we would come back with as part of the resolution. There's a good faith estimate, and my anticipation is it'll be just along the lines of what we talked about today. We are planning a competitive sale. It's the auction process on March 11th, and on April 1, we're planning on having all proceeds from the financing available to the district to pay for the project. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, so if I was gonna do like a cartoon version of what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have our own nonprofit, right? And so we lease our own stuff to ourselves, but, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not transferring ownership, but it is, but not physically.
It's a site lease, and you're subleasing it back. That's
To ourselves.
To yourselves.
But under a nonprofit heading.
Correct.
So we like change clothes and we're a nonprofit, and they're like, here, I've got this. And then now we're a district. Okay, I told you, cartoon, okay?
It is a
That's how we
cartoon,
go.
and you hit it, you nailed it head on. Honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but this is the way that they've been doing it for 125 years in California. And again, they don't consider it debt because of this lease back mechanism.
So what about that still, like we're still getting the money from the investors or the underwriters, right?
Yeah.
And they invest because we're a government, and so they can, and because of the tax-free component to the interest, we're paying the interest. I mean, it's all on us, which ergo means the taxpayers, because every penny we spend is really the taxpayers' money, right? So they invest in it because they want to get the tax-free interest.
Right.
Right. And so because of the bidding, they want to outbid each other so that they get a certificate of participation.
That's exactly right.
Okay. And then we pay ourselves, and then ourselves pay the investors.
So I think that you're talking about that lease-back structure.
Have you heard of this before?
No,
Yeah.
it's extreme lease back.
It's yeah. I get where you're coming from.
I'm going to do it with my house and be like, New Yorkers, would you like to invest in my house? Just kidding.
It's the nonprofit has just one function, and that is to make it into a lease back. But what the nonprofit is doing actually is it's assigning all of its rights and interests. Its right to receive the money from investors, it assigns to the district. Its obligations to make payments to investors, that goes back to the district. So it really disappears. And really, at the end of the day, what this is in real practical terms, there's a district borrowing money from investors, and a trustee is there representing all of the investors. So you're really doing a deal with a trustee who's standing in the shoes of this investors. And it's made possible because, to your earlier point, investors want this tax-exempt interest. So, if I'm Dr. Small and I have $100,000 and I want to make a tax-free investment for my income or retirement, I can buy $100,000 worth of your financing and get $4,500 a year tax-free. And so I'll look, as Dr. Small, my dad, I'll look at like the 10-year treasury. Okay, I think today it's like 4.7%. So I get $4,700, but there's some tax liability with that. So I'm looking at sort of what my options are as an investor, and I'm saying in California we have such a high tax rate that investors, high net worth investors, are really looking for that tax exempt income. And that's why there's a market for these underwriting firms to purchase loans on behalf of their clients so they have something to sell them.
That answers my question.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Next on our list is electric school bus and cost savings.
Okay, so business is up again. As you probably are know, electric vehicles have become much more of a thing. School buses are, a lot of districts are turning towards school buses, and it is actually in law that we have to transition to electric vehicles and start making that transition.
2035.
Yeah. Actually, today, but it's mandatory that every new bus, every new bus for sure. I think every new vehicle that a school district will be purchasing in 2035 would have to be electric. But currently the requirement is 50% of our new, and I think that's of this year. Do you know, is it this year?
Yes.
2025?
2024.
2025 new vehicles, 50% of our purchases have to be electric vehicles. There's some exemptions, but that's essentially the law. So as with many programs, solar is actually a great example of that. Is there are carrots to start with, and those usually come in the form of grants, funding, incentives to do things, and then at some point the stick comes out and says you got to do it, and good luck financing it, right? So that's kind of where we're at with this, and so there are substantial grants available right now for purchasing electric vehicles. And so we wanted to, before we go down this too far, we wanted to see if we're going in the right direction for the from the board's perspective. So we want to get some direction from you. So we kind of outlined what some of the laws and requirements are, what our current fleet is, and then some of the grants available. And if the board wants us to move forward, we would actually quickly bring back at the next board meeting next steps in the grant approval process, which even at the next meeting wouldn't completely commit us, meaning that we can, if we fine tune these numbers and we don't like where it's going, there's no contracts we can always pull out, but at least it gets us going as far as the application for the grant. So step one is just want to talk to you a little bit about electric vehicles, electric buses, grants available, and have a discussion. And so Julie Guerrero, Director of Transportation, is here to kind of talk about, some of the information regarding this.
Hi, thank you, board. That's where we're at right now. We're really looking at, I am really looking at converting our school bus fleet, which is primarily all diesel fleet. This is what our department looks like currently. So right now we have 3,300 school routes, and we're transporting 1,438 students daily. We're traveling over 3,000 miles daily, and on average, our routes are about 91 miles per route. So in our fleet, we have 59 school buses total. 51 of those are diesel engines, and we have 8 of those are compressed natural gas, CNG buses. So all of the, well, not all of them, the CNG buses are aging. They are coming up on 20 plus years. So they are looking to go out for pasture soon. They've met their time. So this is what we're looking at right now. So as Scott mentioned, there are some code of federal regulations that have been put in place that the EPA has placed restrictions on heavy duty vehicles. And that is making it a little difficult to run our diesel buses. So the NOx levels have to be pretty much at a zero capacity. So converting and getting some retrofitting on our diesel buses is very challenging. So meeting those regulations is going to be tough moving forward, continuing with the diesel fleet. Like mentioned, 2035, diesel school buses will no longer be available for purchase. So that doesn't mean that our fleet has to be completely converted at that time, but that's going to place a lot of difficulties and challenges of keeping those buses in our fleet running with parts and with just availability. The manufacturers, the vendors aren't going to be carrying any of these items any longer. So they're already starting to really cut back on parts. They're very limited, and it's been very time consuming to keep some of these parts on our shelves or even getting them repaired at this moment. So they've ceased, most of the manufacturers have ceased production on diesel buses. There are some out there for sale, but their plants have really, they're converted to EV manufacturing. So they're out there, but very minimal. There is currently that restriction placed in California that 50% of all new vehicles in the district must be EV. So if you're buying, it's kind of hard to determine if you're buying one bus, how do you accommodate that? But ideally, if you're purchasing multiple vehicles, that half of that have to be EV compliant. Challenges with that, if you're buying EV vehicles, whether it be school buses, white fleet, as some of our district vans, how are we going to implement that infrastructure there? So that has to be considered. I think first and foremost is the infrastructure has to be considered for this retrofit. Some of the benefits of school buses or electric school buses, does reduce some of the maintenance costs on that. All new buses will be under warranty. All of the larger electrical issues will have to be done outside through the vendors. Our mechanics are not equipped for that type of repair work at that time. That we anticipate to be evolving. So training is becoming available for the mechanics for that as we speak. There's less brake wear to regenerative braking. These buses have regenerative braking techniques installed in them. So we are not using our actual manual brakes as often. There's no engine or exhaust system in the maintenance. There's some potential, actually very great potential for reduced fuel costs compared to diesel, depending on electricity. I'm anticipating that with the complete transition, we should be saving about 2/3 of our fuel costs annually. Zero tailpipe pollution. Students, drivers, members of the community will be exposed to significantly less harmful diesel emissions like PM and NOx. So this also reduces the greenhouse gas emissions compared to diesel school buses, and it's quieter in our neighborhoods. We often do get complaints that neighborhoods aren't inclined or to having the school buses coming traveling down their street at 6 a.m. when we're picking up students. The diesels are, as we're all aware, are pretty loud. And then when the brakes let off their air, that wakes them up. And so also I receive a lot of complaints frequently about what is perceived to be speedy. And with these heavy duty vehicles and that diesel with that push, just that slight acceleration makes that appearance that we're speeding when we're actually not. So that's just a fun point that I wanted to point out with diesel buses. So wanted to share some opportunities that we have currently with some funding available for our district. There are a lot of them out there right now, but these are some of the primary ones that are current and open. We have ZESB, which is Zero Emission School Bus and Infrastructure. This one's a great one. CCAT, which is Sacramento Emergency Clean Air Transportation. They do offer that outside of Sacramento. Some of the sister neighboring districts can take advantage of that. Our air district, Feather River, has some opportunities for us there. And PG&E is wanting to partner with us as well. These are current. They do close soon. And we're just not sure when the next opportunity and how much the next opportunity will offer for us. So with those being said, those grants, this is kind of a breakdown of what I would propose for to start off if we were to go into this transition. Taking advantage of the great funding sources right now, I would like to propose replacing a third of our fleet. This would keep our diesels running on the road, so we could work through and adapt to the EV buses, and distances I think is one of our main concerns to see how well they would travel. So I propose 20 new EV buses at this moment. This is an estimated cost for those 20 buses would be a little over $9 million. We have, with that, we would want 20 chargers, 18 of them being level 2 and 2 fast chargers for the opportunity to keep our buses on a route and possibly some field trips. That is anticipated to be about $200,000. And infrastructure and development and construction cost would be approximately, this is an estimate here for our fleet or our departments, shop and just transportation yard should be about $3.5 million there. So that full implementation cost is just a little, well, let's say $12,800,000. So these current grants look pretty nice for us right now, and we have some great opportunities. So ZESB, like I said, is very attractive right now. That would offer us the most, right, with a little over $8 million. Stacking that, which is stackable, the CCAT grant funding would offer us $198 per bus, so that would give us the close to $4 million there. Feather River has some funding, but they don't have too much funding sources in the Metro District here at this moment, but they can sprinkle on a little supplemental funding for us there with about $16,500. PG&E is excited and willing to work with us and wanting to work with us and bringing power up to our door. With some funding for us for our chargers and just any of the power sources that we might need with them. So that's about another $800. So if we're able to take advantage and the board accepts and authorizes these grants and we receive the funding for that, this could potentially get our foot in the door at little to no cost to the district.
So let me stop right there, if you don't mind. I just want to add a little bit to this. So Julie, you participated in, was it Roseville, other districts that have gone this route. So you have some experience now with this. And over the last number of months, we've done a fair amount of research. But before we kind of got too deep, this is why we wanted to start. This is the point where let's talk to the board, see where we want to go. So with that, we've driven buses, we've gone down and checked them out, we've kicked the tires, we've seen other districts and talked about we're not early adopters at all in this technology. We're probably on the later side, I'd say. So other people have had those growing pains, and also worked in the newer technology where the buses had much more limited range and that type of stuff. So it's kind of where I'm at typically is I don't want to be the first adopter because there's too many growing pains with that, but also don't want to be the last adopter because there's really no grants at that point, right? So, or the, this type of scenario. So I think we're kind of in that, sweet spot of there's enough districts that have been out there, have seen the growing pains, we're able to learn from them. The industry is able to learn from them. And so I think that's been good. And we've done a fair amount of due diligence at this point. This is a fairly rough estimate at this point. Some numbers are more easily identifiable than others. We know the cost of buses, right? So we have the market's out there. We have an understanding of what the 20 new buses are going to cost us. We have an idea of really what the charger is going to cost us as well. I'd say the infrastructure and development construction costs, that's where, we're going to have to really kind of bid out, design it, figure out what that looks like. So that cost estimate is not as dialed in as the rest. And there's always overruns and things like that will happen on major projects. So, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. The grants available are actually, those are pretty solid as well. I mean, the parameters of what the grants are. So we have an idea. We understand the scope of our project. Like we've kind of identified we'll call it a phase one of, going electric. And we chose 1/3 is it's a big enough it's big enough it'll be impactful to the district, but again, it's only 1/3 of our fleet. If the technology is not working for a long field trip or buses or this or that, we have diesel buses that'll take care of those things.
But the question I have though for both Julie and Scott, and I've asked this question, we're going to have to do something because our buses are aging out and they're going to have to be replaced. You're not going to be able to purchase new diesel buses.
We are kind of whittling down here this road. So we need a consistent replacement policy for all our large assets, right? We do it with the computers and other things as well. So we need to do that as well. And the industry is absolutely 100% going down the electric route, whether it's mandated grants or just it makes sense even without the mandates and the grants. The technology's there. The price will continue to come down as the industry matures. But yes, we need to move forward. We need an ongoing replacement cycle for buses, and diesels are not it. The industry's not even saying that
They're not going to be an option.
That's not going to be an option. So that's kind of where we're at. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, again, we're kind of at the rough estimates stage right now. We think we're going to be, it's too good to be true that it's going to be zero cost. I got to be honest with you. I just, I've done enough projects to know that something comes up or, that there's going to be some cost, but I think we're mostly going to be able to pay for this project without district funds. And again, it is going to, we're going to have cost savings in a number of areas. Initially, we'll probably start off with, reducing our fuel costs by 1/3-ish. As we move into further stages of the project, as we replace more buses, we'll have less fuel costs. And of course, our older fleet takes a substantial amount of time and money and parts and repairs and maintenance that electric buses, at least initially, won't, for the first number of years. So that's just kind of big picture. I just wanted to step in and just give a little bit more clarity from our standpoint. We have a few more slides, but if you have any questions at this point, please feel free to,
So, because we've seen these in other districts, do you know how well they fare in long field trips? From what we've seen?
A good example would be Roseville. Roseville has about 18 electric buses right now, and where CIF compete with them, and they've brought over an electric bus on their field trips. So that's a good example, I think, and it bears that it can be used for a lot of our CIF events.
And who's their manufacturer?
For them, it's Bluebird.
Oh,
yeah. So
there's 3-ish, right? There's more, but there's 3 biggies, right? Yeah. Bluebird's one. There's a couple new players too, but what's the other?
The BYD
is
new to the school bus industry, but they have electric vehicles that have been on the road in California.
And commercial buses and that kind of stuff. Right. So that's an interesting option. They're new to school buses, but they've actually had the longest history of actually operating electric buses. just on school buses. So that's an interesting option.
How long are they expecting these batteries to last?
So the batteries have an 8-year warranty on them currently.
So in danger.
Yeah, so the little birdies are flying around stating that they're going to be coming up with some grant funding for battery replacements in the next 5 years, but that is.
So that is an absolute cost of ongoing costs.
What's a battery? What's a battery cost? Because I'm hearing through the grapevine that people have these EV cars that, you know, they're great because they don't consume gas. But then they said that the one little thing is that they don't tell you about the battery. There's a life expectancy for the battery that, you know, 5 years those could put. You buy maybe and I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but a Chevy costs $5,000. But you buy the Tesla battery is like $25,000. So what's the offset with a battery?
I have not researched the prices of the batteries.
So just
So
curious.
that's probably part of the follow-up stuff, and we can even bring that back at the next meeting. But you know, at this point, you know, we're hopeful at some point if to move forward with applying, you know, for the grants and then getting into the details like that, because that could be right if that's a deal breaker. Yeah.
Well, it's not only that, but diesels have a 1% to 2% fail rate. Your e-buses have 20%. So that means out of a fleet of 100, 20 of them are sidelined because of maintenance and repair costs. And I believe what you said was that because our people can't even work on these yet, right? We've got to also hire a contractor. Now we've got to have a vendor to perform repairs, which is going to be an additional cost. And I don't know about you all, but like when I read the reports, there is the poor reliability, again, the 1% to 2% diesel versus 20% for your e-buses, and repairs for e-buses take on average 13 days. So that's 13 days off of the for usability. And you're saying replace, like, I mean, if I was like, hey, let's get these in addition to, but now we don't have the other 12 to offset the like newer technology that also, like you've got in Maine, the Department of Ed parked all of their e-buses due to major problems. In February, there was a crash because suddenly they lost brakes and they lost power steering. New York, 20 out of 100 e-buses are down on any given day because of the problems, not only with the buses, but with the charges. And in some instances, they're even knocked out of business because of a pothole. We don't have the greatest roads here. So if these e-buses are getting knocked out because you hit a bump, we've got a big problem. In Britain, 2,000 of them are facing recall. And then you have in September 2021, the Daily Bulletin, San Gabriel, LA, more, their whole fleet, 67% of the fleet were inoperable during 2019, 2020. So
but some of that, and I really applaud all of your research on this, but some of this research, I mean, this is technology that is growing leaps and bounds and quickly. So I don't really put much stock in a report from 2020 or 2021.
So that was one.
Right.
The rest of them are in the past 24 months.
Right, and I understand that. But I do think that this is the future coming at us. I mean, diesel is not going to be available to us. They're not manufacturing them anymore. We can't get parts for them anymore. Our buses are aging out. We can't buy more diesel buses. So I really don't see that we have much of a choice. And if we have the opportunity now to get these grants for this, and I understand, I'm hoping that we get these 20 new buses, we don't get rid of the diesel buses we have, we can cannibalize those for parts.
But that's going to be a part of the grant.
It will.
Yeah,
It will,
that
to
is,
get rid of them.
That's the stick.
The advantage that and the thought process is with the replacement in the replacement process, we are looking at the aging fleet as well as buses that are spare, so they're not being utilized on a day-to-day on our route buses. So that still leaves us with the other 39 buses in operation that well covers our home to school routes.
And I can appreciate that technology grows exponentially year to year nowadays. But what I'm saying is if these things are happening within 2 years, like would I rather like I mean, this is the question for all of you. The question is, do we get on this train now, right? And get possibly subpar products that are unreliable, or that break down because you go over a pothole, whatever. Or do we wait a couple more years and the technology gets better, the grants are not available as much, but the product is better because it's had a chance to improve.
I think that what I'd like to say is because we are not trailblazers here. I mean, some of the districts to the south have gone full fleet. I think the thing that is being presented to you all is a opportunity to go slow, to go fast. The issue that I'm concerned about is that putting up an infrastructure to, because again, 2035 is 10 years away.
Yeah.
That is not a lot of time to try to get an infrastructure up to replace a complete fleet of 33 buses, 60.
Total
Yeah.
60.
So I think I understand, because I understand the frustration. We're being forced to do some things that are not necessarily ideal right now, but there's opportunity, there's funding, and it does give us the opportunity to dip our toe into the pond and to look at, to say, you know, what are some of the challenges? But again, we're not going to have an option. And I'm going to say this to the entire board of the district is, if you wait too long, you may not have any choices. If 10 of our buses go out, we are going to be in a pickle in terms of how we're going to transport our kids. So I think it's just the reality of where we're going. You know, in terms of agree or don't disagree, I am a gas driver. I only have gas. I'm never going to have an electric vehicle unless I have to.
Well,
So I get it. But I'm just saying is, there's an opportunity. Julie is coming from a district who started slowly. I think they're continuing to add to the fleet. And I think there's some funding, and both Scott and she have come to me to say, here's an opportunity. We're not saying we're going to dump everything and go full electric because of some of these concerns.
Definitely the grant funding looks appealing, because from what I'm seeing, it looks like it's basically a wash. But it's just, you know,
But if we buy the 20 buses, do we have to decommission then
We do.
20 diesel buses?
We do have to decommission. That is part of the grant. That was a good call. And so what I'll tell you what I'm hoping to do is, you know, get your concerns, work with you, identify what we need to get answers to, because I mean that's what, you know, you read off some headlines, but let's get the data behind the headlines, right? You know, what is the percentage of this happening or that happening? What is the warranty? How quickly can they keep these buses going? What does this mean operationally? Because again, 2/3 of our fleet's going to be diesel already. So, you know, how does that impact operations? So if we can, again, we're not like solar, we're going, man. I mean, we signed contracts, we're moving forward.
right.
This is an informational meeting. I'm very much hoping to bring back, but again, I need a majority of the board to say, yeah, we want to at least explore this more. If we want to explore this more, we do need to hit a deadline on one of these grants, and that would be brought back at the next meeting.
And is that the $8 million?
It's the big one, right? It's a ZESB grant. Okay, doesn't it doesn't mean that we are tied into buying buses at that point. The board is committed, you know, but the board has said we want to pursue the grant funding. We can walk away at any time, but we can start getting the data, the real data, the source data behind any of the concerns that you have, bring it back and have further discussion and say, hey, where are we? Does this make sense? Do we feel comfortable with this? Again, at the end of the day, if we don't feel comfortable doing it as a board, you know, pull the plug. We'll do something else. I mean, we will have challenges. We're going to have challenges dealing with the diesel fleet. It's going to have its own set of challenges. Getting parts, buying used buses because we won't be able to get new ones, right? So trying to figure that out, it's going to be a challenge. But there are other
I think and that's the question I ask, if not this, then what? And I look to you and Julie to try to come up with then what?
Right.
Because there has to be an option.
Right. We have an aging fleet. It's old.
Right.
So
we
what
have to
is the
start
life
buying
cycle?
stuff now.
What is the life cycle, the average life cycle of one of our diesel buses? I mean, it's been a while since we purchased a new one. I know we signed that we purchased used ones the last time, right?
We actually there were new ones, weren't they?
Yeah. I thought
They were.
We bought some new ones
okay.
because we had some districts.
Offloading theirs.
They canceled their order, so we picked it up, right?
Nice.
Brand new ones, yeah, because nobody else is, because they're not
I'm
manufacturing.
glad we did that. That was smart of us. Good job, you guys.
So yeah, I mean that was
they've had issues on
that
so.
that was part of that reason, right? Because it's hard to get them nowadays, and we have an aging fleet, right? So we did that.
What is the lifespan of that?
Is 25,
50 to 20.
Okay, 20.
And with good mechanics, we can.
And we do have good mechanics.
Okay, but now we got to go into a vehicle that is what 3 times that of a diesel,
But Kirsten,
and then it's only got an 8-year battery life.
no,
Well, let's get the data. That's what I'm saying.
I'd love more data because
Yeah.
this looks really optimistic.
So-
it doesn't look like.
Can I just chime in?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry. I just want to say, just reiterate that the purpose of, if I'm understanding this correctly, these are grants that are available to us in the immediate future, right?
Right.
And so to potentially tap into those grants at the next board meeting, it'll come to us for action. That doesn't mean that we're buying into that or anything like that, but it puts us in the right position that if the board decides, when Julie and Scott come back to us with more information, answering your questions, and if we say, hey, we're done, we're gonna pull the plug, then that's fine. But if we decide we wanna pursue it, then at least we have the opportunity to take advantage of the 8.2.
I understand that.
So.
Because I think that's a good question, Kirsten.
I think it'd be short-sighted of us not to pursue
Well,
these
we have
grants.
51 buses, and I think that's a piece of information, is 51 of those buses are how old? So are they, are they relatively, like, they're 5 years old, are they 20 years old, where are they, and where were they in a replacement cycle?
So, because obviously your oldest, most problematic buses.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't have that data right here, but we're looking at that.
I think about 2000, the year 2000, or some of our oldest.
And it's, I agree as far as, it doesn't hurt to look at it.
Could you look at
It's
this?
something we're definitely being force fed. And hey, by 2035, we're
It's not a
no
lease,
longer
it's
produce
just a
gas burning
grant that we're
engines.
looking at right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet there are exceptions to that law. You
The
can
bonds
apply
are-
for exceptions.
If you are researching a little bit more, it would be interesting to know what is, like in Roseville, what are the costs of their maintenance right now? Like, are they having problems with their buses?
Especially like cold weather, like the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, like put out a list of the recommendations on how to charge these vehicles in the cold. Like it's crazy long.
Well, that's what I was gonna say about some of those reports back there, back east, is that they do not do well in like snow.
Right.
Freezing temperatures, they don't do well. So we don't have that.
We're not subject to.
Yeah, no,
So we
I
don't have
understand.
that. But I would like to know if they are having trouble with their buses?
Real.
How long are they out of service if they do have a problem with the bus?
Yeah, no, I said that's exactly that's the feedback, and I don't want to make a stupid decision either, right? You know?
And the vendors have stated that, they're aware that that is the concern, and have stated that, within 24 hours, they would have somebody out here, in a particular vendor, or another one will say, we have local mechanics that will either come to you, or if they're that local Sacramento, then we can have the buses towed.
What was the price tag of a new diesel bus?
A new diesel bus.
Yeah.
The diesel,
Is it 350?
they're about, no, that's more, that's on the high end. We're anywhere from 175 is kind of the average.
These are like,
So they're
these are
actually
400.
relatively cheaper than an electric.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
They're a quarter of the cost. Half.
They're about half.
Yeah.
They're about half.
I just have a couple of questions, and you can take this back, and then just food for thought for when you come back to us. I know, like, the battery piece, there's, when and I might be naive to the bus world or whatnot, the EV world, but I know there's different options when you're buying an EV vehicle, right? Is it possible when we get to that point, if there are options to purchase a long range battery as opposed to just the standard, what the cost difference would be for that, if that can be included?
Sure.
And then just something that I was looking at, I know you said, I think we have 33 home to school routes, but we have a fleet of 60. We're looking to purchase 20 new buses. This is a question for the district, are we going to go back to the pre-COVID bus routes where we had those buses in use and we're hiring that fleet, those bus drivers?
We're getting pretty close to, well, I mean, we're
We
I'll say this.
Well, on that topic, it's the bus drivers that is challenging to obtain versus that, and then the cost of actually running those buses, and then the employment and the cost of that.
Sure,
it has to be a consideration of the
factors.
district.
Of course,
So-
but I'm just saying, like, long term.
Yeah.
Can you guys come back to us and tell us like what the plan is if eventually we're gonna get to 60 brand new, hypothetically speaking, okay? We're gonna get to 60 EV buses that we have here, brand new buses. I would like to think that we would also have 60 bus drivers and we'd have 60 bus routes or close to it.
It doesn't work. It's not
yeah.
as linear as that, but we can absolutely, so we're pretty close to satisfying the entire demand of the district at this point. And we're not there, but we're pretty close. Is that fair to say?
I think that's fair to say.
I think we're doing a phenomenal job right now. But I'm just saying, like, in the future, if we're looking at getting back to what we were, expanding and whatnot, but that's a conversation for a different time, not right now. And then I think they talked about the warranty on the buses. And the only point of clarification the other point of 2 points of clarification that I had, the law that you're talking about, does that include the maintenance vehicles as well? So like if I buy 20 buses, that's equivalent to 20 maintenance vehicles, or is there like a monetary value wise equivalent?
What do you mean by maintenance?
So if it's over a certain rate, we need to stick with this 50/50 law, but there are some different ways to get there. But either way, it's limiting on what you can buy as far as new diesel vehicles, and it does apply to the trucks. I don't know if that applies to the vans. We can come back with that.
Yeah, it's most definitely includes the heavy duty vehicles, which does.
These are just questions I'm throwing at you.
Okay.
You don't. We don't need an answer right now.
Right.
And then the only other thing was in the solar plan. Did we? I'm sorry if I don't recall, but did we ever include the bus yard?
Yeah, so the bus yard's getting solar planned, so that could feed into, of course, the charging stations.
I can give you my questions, but that's all
I have another question about the insurance cost, because I know that when you buy an electric vehicle, the insurance cost is very high compared to your gas.
I can double check. I would say I'm 99% sure it's not going to affect. So we have a very different insurance than like a residential. It's actually a joint powers authority. So we pool our premiums with hundreds of other districts, and we control our own destiny, meaning that we control the claims process and all of that. We have, over $500 million worth of coverage. I mean, we control what we cover, and school districts cover electric buses, and there's no different, they don't differentiate premiums based on what types of vehicles you have.
Okay. So at this point, you guys are just asking for direction to come back at the next board meeting to present the grants for action, correct?
To present specifically one grant, the ZESB grant, because it does have it has
You've got to do the initial application soon.
Yes.
Keep your foot in the door.
Yep.
So what's the direction of the board? Is there anyone that's opposed to that coming back? Does us speak? No? Okay, perfect. We will see you guys at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for getting our kids to school.
Yes. Thank you. All right, are there any comments from public on items not on the agenda? No. Thank you very much, Ms. Laura. Are there any questions on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve.
Yeah, on a motion by member Brady and the second by member Core. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Action 14A, expulsion, suspended contracts, and readmission case.
I move that we approve as discussed in closed session.
Second.
Okay, on a motion by member Brady and a second by member Ciociola,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, hearing none, motion carries. B, first reading of BP 3311.5.
Okay, up again. So we have two first reads here. One is very simple, and that is the procurement board policy 3311.5. Every year there is a new limit or adjustment to the limits as far as our bid threshold, and so it went from 14,500 up to 14,800. So we'd like to. There's no other significant changes in that board policy, but we'd like to update that. The second one does have to do with debt management and issuance of debt, and in relationship to the debt offering that we would be doing here. So this is a CSVA template. However, we had it reviewed by council, bond council, for some additional changes in there. So if you have any questions now or before next board meeting, please let me know so I can answer those. Have our bond council answer those.
So on page 2 of 3470, authorized purposes for the issuance of debt. Item number 3, to provide for cash flow needs. So I don't think this isn't really a question about the policy, but we don't do that, right?
Well, actually,
we don't borrow to like.
No, that's the thing. And so let me explain it. It's not in regards to the solar project, but that is a thing that most districts do and they need to. And the reason is our main funding source is taxes. Okay, so taxes come in typically 2 payments. Everybody gets their, December and April.
And you're not sure how much you're really getting.
Well, not only that, but think of all the bills we have from July up through December, right? So that's one issue, right? We, if our fund balance gets, kind of a little lower, then we don't have the cash to make payroll sometimes. A lot of districts don't. So that's sometimes we haven't had to do it, at least not since I've been here. I don't know if you ever have here, but sometimes there is a difference between when we receive money and when we have to pay money, right? There's also was really an issue when the budget was in significant issues. 08, 09, all the way through 2012, when the state government just wasn't giving us money, right? They're all, we'll give you an IOU. Well, we can't do that with payroll, can we, right? We got to pay our people. So they would, let's say in our budget, they may defer $20 million. Well, that's a chunk of money that we know we're going to get it. So sometimes you do have to borrow for capital purposes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But that sounds like living off of credit cards.
Oh God, it's ridiculous.
2 days for street.
That's just first read.
Do we want to, if there's no further questions, do we want to waive second read and take action?
Yes, I move that we waive second read and take action on both of them.
Second.
Okay, on a motion by member Brady and second by member Cianciola to waive second read. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And then can I get another motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve.
I second.
Okay, on a motion by member Cianciola, second by member Quilty to approve BP 3311.5 as well as BP 3470. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
He just breezes through this policy.
Yeah, these are the tough ones. Okay, C, second reading for proposed revisions to YCUSD
Yes.
board policies.
So what I'd like to report is that there has been some changes since I brought these policies for first read, and this is second read. So on January 9th, there was a court decision that basically vacates the Title IX 2024 final rule. So what that means is that the 2024 Title IX final rule, along with the corresponding regulations, are no longer in effect. And this action returns back to status quo, and in this case, it would be the 2020 Title IX regulations, so there is no need to take action on these because they are no longer in effect. So I would basically, I'm going to pull these, but wanted to announce to the community and to the board as the rationale as to why I'm not requesting approval for these because they are no longer in effect and no longer required by law. So I'm going to pull this agenda item.
Okay.
And
Right.
so then if we go online, the current BP 4030, for example, would be the Title IX per 2020 regulations.
I'm double checking that and verifying. So I just pulled those today and I'm looking at those to make sure, and I'm going to actually ask legal to review them to make sure that they are, because there were so many different things happening at that time and things were coming up. So I want to verify that, but it will revert back to the 2020.
Okay.
And if there's a need to make any changes to revert back, I will bring those forward. Thank you.
Okay. Board reports, information, and discussion. Are there any committees or schools that went? No? All right.
I went to Yuba City Charter School.
Okay.
Is that where I'm supposed to report on this?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I went to their board meeting on is it last week or this week? Gosh, the weeks just meld together. And it was very good. They reported on their finances and they are fiscally sound, so that was good. And they invited me to come and visit their school, so I'm planning on doing that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was good.
Awesome.
Ask for parents.
Oh, they have chickens? Fresh eggs, okay.
Are there any written communications from the public?
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. Comments from employee representatives?
Good evening, board. I'm Mercedes Geraldo, representing our classified employees and to our, if there's any community out there online, and to our staff that's in the audience. First, I just want to stop and make note about the devastating wildfires down in Southern California, and that has affected schools. It's affected school students, school children. It's affected staff, and CSCA, CTA, and CFT all have different funds set up, nonprofit funds to help those members in need. So if anybody is looking to maybe donate a little bit, any one of those causes would be probably really appreciated to have some money thrown at them. So I'm just putting that out there to you because you know, we oftentimes see these big, beautiful mansions and, oh my goodness, this celebrity's home burnt down, but we don't think about what impact that had to actually the community who work for them, who would be, you know, I know they're not classified employees, but they're like a classified employee in somebody's home and that sort of thing. So the folks that were really hurt, and a lot of school employees, both certificated and classified and administrative, we're the boots on the ground people, right? And we're really affected a lot by these fires. And so just think about that in your hearts. And if there's something you can do, I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated. In December, we finalized our new executive board, and I will be remaining here as your president. Peggy Costa is our first vice president. Adam Huff, she is our floating custodian or rover custodian. Adam Huff, who's a data system or IT system specialist, he's our second vice president. Keith Martinez, who's an IT tech, he is our secretary. Our treasurer is Tanya Treat, who is a admin secretary over at River Valley. Our sergeant of arms is Rosalind Tapia. She's a special ed paraeducator at AK. Chief Union Steward is Raquel Stevens out of our transportation department. She's a bus driver. Another bus driver, Delana Hill, is our site rep coordinator. Our communications officer is Miguel Corona, another IT tech. And finally filling the position that she's been in for a long time but never got to just hold it by itself is Pam, is our past president, because she's been our past president for I don't know how many years now. But the other past presidents keep leaving, so we'll see what happens there. We met again this week for negotiations, picked that back up. I felt like we had a really productive day negotiating, collaborating together to make sure that we're all on the same page, and I do appreciate that. Likewise, last week we started back up our job description task force, where we're getting closer to finalizing a couple of job descriptions. We are Thursday night ratifying some MOUs. So Our new job description for a VEPA assistant, a visual and performing arts assistant, is coming through. We're finally getting the MOU to finalize the effects of the layoffs that happened last year. And then we had an MOU just solidifying the fact Ed Code 45102 that makes sure that classified employees that are working summer and intersessions are included with their statutory benefits and things like vacation pay, sick leave and things like that. So solidifying that the district is going to either has been doing that or is going to do that moving forward and making sure anybody's compensated if they were left out in the past. That's all I have for tonight, and thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, staff, and anyone in the audience. I'm Dana Lukens, President of the Yuba City Teachers Association. Got a couple of items I'd like to address with you tonight. First one I'd like to call your attention to is Yuba City Unified's induction program. We have a robust program that supports new teachers. Our induction program supports those teachers clearing their preliminary credentials in their first and second year after earning their preliminary credentials to clear their credentials. Yuba City currently has 10 teachers in year 1 for induction and 25 teachers in year 2. Those teachers are supported through the program by 39 mentors, and I'd like to particularly call out Michelle Stoffel, who is the coordinator for our induction program, and 2 full-time mentors, Lori Smith and Amy just blanked on his new name. Matson. Thank you. I've known her the other name for so long. Our induction program and the staff that operate out of the old district office are amazing. So not only do they support our first and second year teachers who are clearing their credential, they also support, along with 39 mentors, 40 teachers with emergency credentials. Those are 40 teachers who have not yet earned their preliminary credential. These are the folks in greatest need of support because some of them get dropped into a classroom without any schooling to be a teacher, and everything's, oh, it looks so easy. I was there, did it for 13 years. I can now stand in front of students. It's not as easy as it looks, nor do they have their student teaching. So it is remarkable that Yuba City continues to provide support to those teachers who have emergency credentials, either as university interns, as short-term staffing permits, STEPs, or PIPs, provisional intern permits. I am proud of the work Yuba City continues to do to support new teachers into our profession. Those teachers being supported by our induction and our mentors represent 10% of the staff, of the certificated staff of Yuba City Unified. So that's a significant number of folks that are supported. I'd also like to call your attention to some issues that you'll be hearing about in the next couple of board meetings, and that's special education. We know that special education is unfortunately one of those unfunded mandates from the federal government, but it is how we address the needs of students with IEPs. Shortages in staffing special education positions compromise to some extent the services we can deliver, and they also drastically increase the workload of special education employees. So you'll be hearing from speech and language pathologists who will talk to you about the impacts of the shortages of SLPs. You'll hear about special education teachers and those impacts. There are at least 4 to 5 vacancies in the ed specialist, the teachers, and at least 1 vacancy in the SLP, although they are also well over their recommended caseload by Ed Code of 55. So we need to continue to look at how can we best fully staff our special education services. I'd also like to call your attention to an amazing feat, a bipartisan support, and the signature of the President of the United States has implemented HR 82, which repealed the government pension offset and government pension office and the windfall elimination provisions that kept public school employees, among others, from getting their full Social Security benefits. It impacted those who entered the profession in California late because they don't pay into Social Security while paying into the state teachers retirement system, but they may have paid into Social Security for 20 years before entering the profession. However, when they go to retire, they receive a greatly reduced Social Security benefit. Or equally tragic are those teachers who had a spouse who earned their Social Security and They may have been the stay-at-home mom who didn't work that long, but if their husband predeceases them, they got nothing from their Social Security. So with 40 years of lobbying by a variety of folks, including the National Education Association, our federal affiliate in the teachers union, it's finally happened. We have ended that government pension offset that so deeply hurt public school employees as well as many others. So it is with great joy that I was able to report that to our bargaining unit because it impacted many of our folks. And then finally, just to give you an update of where we are next, we are bargaining with the district again on January 22nd. That's next Wednesday, and we last met with the district on October 30th. So it's been a little while. We anticipate that we'll be reviewing hey, where are we? What did we do last? Our team met last week to figure out, back in October, it was a while ago. So we've got all our ducks in a row to be ready to negotiate on the 22nd. And finally, tomorrow is the next LCAP meeting. So we look forward to continuing to be a part of helping the district set budgetary priorities for the supplemental and concentration grants. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Comments from board members? No? Comments from Sue? All right, next board meeting is January 28th. Open session is at 7. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
On a motion by member Susiola, second by member Quilty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.